That's it. Okay. So tell the jury how you felt in that week, May 22 through May 27, and what you decided to do.
At the time, it felt like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I had worked so hard to try to make this relationship work. I went to therapy, I went to Al-Anon, I got help, I read books, I did everything I could possibly do, and it didn't work. And I was conflicted. To answer your question, I was conflicted. I knew after he threw the phone at my face that after all that month of not seeing each other, that not getting better, not getting clean and sober, there wasn't even, I didn't, you know, it was falling apart. I knew I had to leave him. I knew I wouldn't survive it if I didn't. So I made the decision to file for divorce. It was hard because, you know, I loved Johnny so much. I loved him so much.
And why did you file for divorce?
Because I knew if I didn't, I'd likely not literally survive. I'm so scared that it was going to end really badly for me. And I really didn't want to leave him. I loved him so much. I would have done anything, but I couldn't do that one thing. I couldn't stay. The promise and the hope that I had become less and less regular and more rare. The monster had been this thing that was now the normal and not the exception. The violence was now normal and not the exception. And it was so hard. It was so hard, but I knew I had to do it. I believe he would have taken it too far. I wouldn't be here.
Why did you ask for a domestic violence temporary restraining order?
I wanted to change my locks. I wanted I wanted a good night's sleep. Security would always let him into the house no matter what I asked them. No matter when I begged them to let me know when he was coming over, no matter how much I begged them not to let him in when he was mad or drunk or high. And I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic. I was losing hair. I was losing weight. I got really sick. I had shingles. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic attack. I had panic attacks all the time. I was falling apart. I was scared and very conflicted because the person I was scared of is also the person I was in love with. Really, really tricky. And I was thinking one step at a time. You know, I was thinking very myopically. I wanted just to get a good night rest, a good night's sleep. I just wanted to change my locks. I thought it'd be healthier if I got some sleep and I could think about what to do or how to handle this. If I just could sleep. And when I did, I realized that that wasn't enough, that he could get in any way, that the building wasn't going to stop him from getting a locksmith and coming in. I knew that he would do what he wanted.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
It's
Overruled.
not up for thank you.
All right, next.
Okay. So did Mr. Depp show up for the hearing on the DVTRO?
No, he didn't.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And why did you show up?
Because I had to provide testimony for why I needed a restraining order.
What, if any, warning did you give Mr. Depp about obtaining the DVTRO?
We gave him warning. My counsel and his counsel were in communication, and we let them know. We had to. It was mandatory. It's my understanding of it. I'm not a lawyer.
Was there any confusion surrounding whether Mr. Depp was going to file suit as well?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation,
I'm asking
lack of
for-
foundation.
All right, I'll sustain as the foundation if you want.
Did you have any confusion as to whether Mr. Depp was going to file as well?
So I filed for divorce on the 23rd, I believe, and I thought that when I went in that Tuesday, when we filed for it, remarkably, it managed to stay under the radar. You know, these filings are not private. You can't make them private in California. And remarkably, it had flown under the radar. No one picked up on the fact that I had filed, and as limited as it sounds now, I just wanted as much privacy as we could have. You know, one day at a time, I wanted as much privacy as we could possibly get. And the filing had been missed by TMZ and, you know, these paparazzi outlets and stuff. But between the communications between our counsel, I realized that Johnny was going to file in
Objection,
retaliation.
hearsay.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
I'm trying to think how to ask this. So, without saying what the counsel said, what was your understanding and what was your concern?
Objection, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right, well, let's move on. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 800, please? Move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 800.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 800 in evidence. Publish.
Amber, can you describe for the jury what this picture is?
It's a picture of my face while I'm sitting at the courthouse.
And were you wearing any makeup?
I was wearing nothing, not a stitch of makeup.
Michelle, can you bring up 801, please? Move the admission of 801.
No objection.
801 in evidence. Publish.
And Amber, if you can tell the jury what this is.
That's me while I was obtaining my restraining order. It's me in the courthouse.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do while you were at the courthouse? Did you testify?
Oh, I provided testimony and sat there and cried.
And did you obtain a domestic violence restraining order? Temporary
I
restraining
did. The court granted me a restraining order at that time.
When you left the courthouse, what did you experience?
I walked into the courthouse. It was quiet. First thing in the morning. No one knew about my divorce, so I thought it was going to stay that way. And I walked out to a sea of paparazzi and cameras, photographers. It was, to that point, at that point in my life, had never seen so many photographers, and they just surrounded me as I walked out of that courthouse and screamed at me, screamed horrible things at me.
I'm going to take you just for a moment to makeup, and then that would put
Okay,
after
good
that.
break point. Okay, great.
That'll be
All right,
a
thank
good
you.
breaking point after the makeup. You
Yes.
said that you didn't testify. You didn't wear any makeup that day. We've heard all kinds of things about makeup in this case. Could you please tell the jury what your regular routine was with respect to makeup?
Yes, I get up and wash my face like most of us, and I put on right away a moisturizer that has tinted foundation in it. And then I put another foundation on because it has sunblock in it. I have a skin condition that my skin reacts to the sun in a bad way. So I have to wear sunscreen or sunblock every day. Anyway, so I put on both of those. I put on concealer, and I do that before I leave my bathroom in the morning.
Okay.
That's obviously if I don't have a bruise.
Now, when you had bruises or cuts of any nature, what would you do about those? Would you try to cover them up? Would you try to just leave them showing? What would you do?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Overruled on that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm typically photographed in LA when I leave the house, paparazzi type of photograph. So I'm somewhat aware of that anyway. And no woman wants to walk around with a bruise on her face. So if I do have a bruise on my face or someplace visible, the main thing, you have to ice right away to reduce swelling because no amount of makeup can fix swelling, but it's very manageable if you ice it really soon. Arnica is also a great remedy, arnica cream. And then if you want to cover up a bruise, you obviously put foundation first, concealer, and then on top of that, I used a bruise kit. Not a bruise kit, it's a theater makeup kit, a color correction kit, but I called it my bruise kit.
And let me, I use this, I think, in opening statement, and it's Defendant's Exhibit
If
155.
you could by the microphone, please.
Oh.
We can't hear you. There you go.
May I approach the witness to let
That's
her
what you
show?
could show counsel.
This is what I was talking about as a color correction kit. This is not obviously the exact one I used to carry, but I used to carry it with me all the time. Sometimes this pink is sometimes a little bit more purple of a hue, and sometimes the kits are 3 colors. You can get them in 3 or 4 colors. Sometimes they have even more. But the idea is that you want to counteract whatever color you're working with on the bruise. So the first day of bruising, the immediate is red. Red is what shows up right away. So you want to go with the opposite on the color wheel by dabbing on a bit of the green or something to counteract the red. After a day or two, you get more purple in a bruise. So you'd obviously have to go with more of the red tones, the orange tones here. Day 2 for me was always the trickiest because day 2 I feel like, day 1 and day 2 are hardest for me because that's when you get the most blues and purples and you have to deal with the sensitivity. Bruises don't like to be touched. That's the whole point. So that's the trickiest part. But after a few days, that becomes more of that blue becomes more of a brown, yellowish browns, like 5-7 days in becomes more of a yellow green. And then fades into a brown and then into your skin. And whatever color you're working with in the bruise, you want to go opposite color on the color wheel. The opposite, in the first couple of days when you have more of the typical bruise color, the blues and the purples, you want to go more of the orange on the color wheel as opposed to the greens that you start with. And then it progresses from there. I also noticed that bruising on your face tends to heal a lot faster than, at least for me, it was faster healing than bruises on my body, or at least it seemed like that to me. And a nose is pretty much unrecognizable after a day or 2, depending on how much you ice it. Lips are the hardest because they crack and bleed, of course. But it's easy to hide with lipstick if you're a woman. Or, if you wear lipstick, I suppose.
Now, we heard some testimony of people in the week of May 21st to 27th saying that you didn't wear a stitch of makeup. Was that true?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
They just don't know what they're talking about. I always wear makeup.
Okay. You always wear makeup?
I mean, it's part of my bathroom routine in the morning. You know, wash my face. I put on moisturizer. My moisturizer has tinted foundation in it, and I'm certainly not going to walk around LA with bruises on my face.
Okay. I think this
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our lunch recess at this time. Again, do not do any outside research and do not discuss the case with anybody. And we'll see you in an hour, okay? Thank you. Court is still in session, so please be quiet in the gallery. Thank you. All right. And again, Ms. Hurd, since you're still under oath and testifying, you cannot discuss this case to include with your attorneys, okay? In your testimony. All right. Let's come back then at 1:40. Okay? All right. Thank you. 1:40.
Did you mean this theater makeup bruise kit? It's literally called Bruise and Abrasions. It's for theater, and it's meant to make bruises, sweet girl. You mean this one? It's meant to make fake bruises? Is that what you meant? Give me 1 second. I'll show you what I mean. See? Bruise kit. Bruise kit, queen. This one? Where you make the bruises? Oh, this one? Theatrical bruise kit? You knew exactly what you were saying, honey. You knew you weren't covering up anything. You were making something. We all know. We all know.
Well, let me show you this. This is what Amber carried in her purse for the entire relationship with Johnny Depp. She's an actor. Do you honestly think she would have left her apartment ever without makeup? Do you think that she ever would have wanted other people to see her bruises and her cuts? This was what she used. She became very adept at it. You're going to hear the testimony from Amber about how she had to mix the different colors for the different days of the bruises as they developed in the different coloring, and how she would use these to touch those up to be able to cover those.
Cause I'm an international super spy. Super spy!